Thank you all for tuning in. This is Selena, and
Iman.
together we make you plus happy. Each week, we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter.
Remember to like and subscribe at U Plus Happy Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at U Plus Happy. Hey, Selena.
Hola.
Hola. How was your week?
It was good. I don't remember it though. Uh,
There.
um, so last weekend was Mother's Day, and I was like in a mood. Okay, fine. And then I made them brunch, my family brunch,
Oh.
and it made me feel happy. So the moral of the story, guys, do something for somebody, then you'll be happy.
It's a facts.
It really did help though. And like slaving over that food, and I don't really know how to cook, but I was trying. It made me happy. It really did make me happy. So I don't know.
I'm sure they appreciated it too.
They did. They did. And they pretended they liked it. It was great. What about you?
So this week, and I talked about it in the last episode about wanting to try the whole time stamping thing that Mikey and Travis. So for those that didn't see last week's episode, basically just like scheduling out your day and devoting like a little bit of time to each activity. So I did that this week. And I realized how little extra time I have in the day, which was interesting. So I was like realizing that I need to be more strategic about not wasting time, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Um, but it was really helpful to go through and just have a set time for each activity. And I worked out every day last week. So I was very proud of myself before work, which has been
You
a
look
struggle.
better. It's crazy.
Girl, didn't change anything in a week, but it did make me happy to know I'm like, okay, I got up before work every day, did my little hour, 45 minutes, and tried to squeeze it in the day. So
You can lose ounces a day. So a week.
I mean, I also ate like a whole pizza last night.
Yeah, girl, I had some cake.
So
So we be working out, but we be eating. So
I think you got to do both, like, eat healthy and work out. But
I love working out, but now I think it's just like a habit, but I still be eating so bad. It's,
Mhm.
it's the cake and the freaking wine, man.
Yeah, my weakness is the pizza and cookies, especially chocolate chip, like the warm goo. Okay, anyways.
Mm. You know, I've been off cookies. I'm a vanilla cake girl.
No, definitely could do some cookies over cake.
Damn. All right. So
It's kind of a little sidetracked, bringing
speaking
it
of
back.
sweets, who do we have on the show? Does that no, that doesn't work. All right, cool.
I mean, all right. So this week we have Erica Doe on as a guest. So Erica, we used to work together, so I'm very excited to have her on. She's a Washington, D.C. native committed to the use of therapeutic creativity in social emotional development of youth. She is a daughter of immigrant parents from Liberia and the first in her family to graduate from college. She is especially inclined to work with students of color who will be the first in their families to attend college or a university. After earning her Bachelor's of Art degree from Columbia University and her Master's of Social Work from Syracuse University, Erica received a Fulbright Fellowship through which she served as the university teacher and college advisor in Johannesburg, South Africa. She currently serves as a youth program manager, overseeing all programs activities, including curriculum development and program evaluation. Erica is a licensed master social work, has her license in the master's of social work and provides therapy to adults in DC. She has 10 years of experience in education and mental health services with youth and young adults. She enjoys warm weather, large body of water, and sugary sweets. See, it had something to do with our guests. So without further ado, Erica. Hi, Erica. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So this is my friend and co-host, Selena.
Hello.
Erica. We used to work together back in the day.
Way back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll hop in. So thank you for being on the show. I just want to know, like, how did you get started in the field of social work and eventually starting Crew Oasis, your org?
All right. Well, thank you all for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is my first podcast. Social work. So I grew up in Northwest DC in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't know if you know much about DC. So then you're from Baltimore. So you
know a little something.
Yeah.
Heard a few things.
So it wasn't a fun time to be a child in DC or to be anyone in DC, really. My neighborhood wasn't particularly safe. We couldn't play in parks. I recognized very early on that the opportunities that I had through education were very different from my peers in my neighborhood. And that has always been my impetus towards social work. I didn't know I wanted to do social work until I realized that there was a name called social work. I thought I was going to be a doctor, a pediatrician, even from childhood. Oh, I love kids. I love helping kids. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. And quickly realized my first year, I don't want to be a doctor. I hate the hospital. I hate needles. I hate blood. Why am I doing this? But I really like kids. So what else can I do? And so went into psychology and sociology and urban studies and found my way into social work. So that's where I am. All I knew was I want to do something different for the people in my community. What can I do?
Yeah.
Oh, you asked another question. How did I start Crew? Did you ask me that?
Mm-hmm. How'd you get started with? Well, first, what is Crew Oasis? Let's start there.
Okay, so Crew Oasis is how do we describe it? I want to describe it as a safe space. Mm-hmm. So right now I will call it an organization because I have these official documents that say that it's an organization, but I really started it as a safe space for me and my homegirls to just talk about life, about what we want to do in this life, create vision boards, create goals in a creative way. I really started it with young girls in South Africa when I was there in 2013. And it was an after school program. We met twice a month. And I was doing with these young girls what I would do with my friends. Hey, let's talk about this. Oh, let's talk about mental health because no one's talking about it. Let's talk about what healthy relationships look like. And so I did that there, came home, and I said, hey, let's keep this going in my living room because that's all I have. And always had an art piece to it because art is fun and it makes people just a lot more comfortable sharing and exploring different things. And so Crew Oasis is really just a safe space for women to come and engage. And we can literally talk about anything. So these days I try to keep it structured because it's just easier. But I mean, during the quarantine, we had a virtual session and it was just like, hey, everyone gets 5 minutes to vent and no one can say anything. And when you finish venting, then the next person can chime in and give you advice or, ask any questions. And in that space, people were crying. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this right now, but that's okay. So social worker Erica, therapist in me kicks in and, I'm facilitating conversation in such a way that leaves people in the space vulnerable, but not feeling broken by the time they get out of the space. And so it really is just a safe space for women to engage with one another, to engage in community, to hold one another accountable, to really explore the things that they love and the things that are concerning to them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that idea. And I love the fact that you said it's in your living room. Like I'm sure that makes it a whole nother level of like intimacy and not and like
It does though.
like just feeling like you can open up and be vulnerable in that space.
It does. And there's always food and there's drinks, whatever kind for whatever you like,
Mm-hmm.
It's a safe space.
Love it.
Most people, when they travel or go, if they go to South Africa, they're not going to go start like what you just described. What made you do that versus just because I'm guilty of this too, just going to travel for selfish reasons. But that sounds the opposites of that. So how'd that come about?
So I was doing a Fulbright fellowship, and my primary job was teaching. And I was teaching at the university, and then I was counseling high school students who were trying to get into U.S. schools through the embassy? One of those, the consulate. So I was doing that. And when you go with Fulbright, they ask you to do a volunteer project. It can be a one-time thing. It can be a continuous thing, whatever it is that you want. And so I said, I like students. I like high school girls. Let's do something with the girls. I asked for some money. They gave me money so I could buy art supplies and supplied my transportation. And I had these girls and they kept coming. So I said, okay, let's do this. I called it a sister circle over there. And they came every other week till they started asking me, can we do it every week? And I was like, no, we're just going to do every other week for now. Because I was planning things for them and it was structured because they are young people. And so I didn't want to just say, hey, come just sit. And, we're just going to chat. So I had very structured lessons for them. But it was fun. And I realized how freeing they were able to have. We talked about sex and I had them paint images of what sex looks like to them and how they think sex should be. And I remember one student painted this very pretty, bright, colorful image. And then she had a second image and it was dark. I mean, the darkest purples, blacks, dark blue. So I said, okay, explain to us what's going on in these photos. And she held up the bright photo and she said, this is sex within marriage when it's God ordained and it's free and it's loving. And she said, and this is sex in the concept of rape when it's forceful. It involves violence. This is when someone is stealing your innocence. And we were able to have a conversation about sex. And I never in a million years would have thought, this will be the gateway to have this very open and honest conversation.
I love it. That's so dope. How long were you there?
For 9 months.
Oh, so good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was homesick and then I wasn't, and I wanted to stay, but then the U.S. did we have a government shutdown in 2013? We did have a shutdown in 2013.
Wow.
Okay. So there was no more money for me to stay.
I wasn't trying to get in this country, so I probably wasn't paying attention.
Same. 2013 now. Yeah.
And did helping the girls help you not feel homesick?
Definitely. It definitely added to a greater sense of purpose. I was happy. I love kids. I've always loved kids. I love anything. We can just sit and eat when we walk into the bus stop. Like, I just love interacting with children. They are literally my joy. And so they're not kids. I mean, they're 15, but working with them, I just felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So then I couldn't worry about, I want to go home. Go home and do what? What are you doing? You're doing what you're supposed to be doing right here in this space. Look how you found it, or look how it found you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So did I cut you off, Iman? I say that every episode.
No. Go ahead.
So shifting gears a little bit, in our society, we talk about success so much, but we never talk about the failures on the road to success. And so was there a time when you felt like you failed and what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
Okay. So I've only felt like I failed one time. And it's not, I don't even know if it was like, oh, I was doing this thing and it happened. I applied for something. Can I name it? I applied for Teach for America. So I applied for Teach for America when I was graduating from undergrad, and Teach for America told me no, first round. Cool, fine. So then I got to Syracuse for grad school. And my second year at Syracuse, I'm ready to leave. So I'm like, okay, what's next? I still want to teach. I applied for Teach for America again. Round one, I made it through. I said, okay, we're getting somewhere. Round two, I made it through. I said, all right, we're getting somewhere. Time to come. I did round three. They're like, sorry, you're not it. I felt so disappointed, frustrated. I was like, well, God, what am I going to do? I want to work with kids. I like teaching. What am I going to do? 2 days after I got rejected from TFA, I got my letter from Fulbright saying that I was a finalist. Right, I did a little dance. Did do it.
And Fulbright is like on another level, girl. I applied for it too. Another level.
I was like, okay, cool. This is great. And that happened. And so I don't know. I haven't had a failure in doing necessarily like I started this project and it didn't work. But definitely it felt like a failure in I'm putting all of my time, effort, energy into pursuing this goal, and it's just not happening for me twice now, and I can't understand why. And so I definitely felt disheartened in that moment. But what I did realize is there's always something else that is for you. If it doesn't happen this way, try it again another way. Try another route. Like there's always just something else. This one thing is not the end all be all. It is not the thing that defines me ever. It's just a moment in time. It happened. Okay, now what?
I love it. So like what has been kind of like on your journey, traveling, starting your own safe space, getting fellowships, what has been your biggest motivation to keep you going?
My biggest motivation, truthfully, is that I know that none of this is about me. There are days where I don't want to do anything. There are days when I work with my students and they say, oh my gosh, Miss Erica, you're so happy. And I'm like, if you saw me this morning, I was not happy, but I saw your face and it brought a smile to my face. And so helping my community is something, there's a community drive for me. And maybe it's because my family is Liberian, and so everything is community and family, and do this for your family, and you have to do this and you have to do this. Maybe it's growing up on W Street and seeing that none of us have much of anything, and none of us really have a safe place outside of this block, or even on that block, really, for most days. But none of us have, the answer to making life great and grand in this space. But we used to provide community for one another. And so the parents would come and sit outside so that the kids could play. And the people on the street who were doing their things knew, oh, when Mama Esther is outside, y'all better keep it together. Or she walks by, that's my mom. When she walks by, hey, Miss Esther, how you doing? Like, it was very kind. It was very loving. It was very community oriented, even when there was foolishness happening around us. And so my community drives me. I'm like, none of this is about you, Erica. Who cares how you feel today? I mean, take your break, of course, take your moment, do what you need to do. But ultimately, it's not about me. It's how I'm affecting change in the communities that I inhabit. And so everywhere that I go, I find myself building these communities and adding to and strengthening and growing from and learning from these spaces.
I love it.
Yeah. How do you build communities everywhere you go? Because I know we were just talking before we started the show, y'all, like people moving so much. And when you like nowadays, a lot of people move all the time. Like we're in 3 different locations.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you build those communities everywhere you go?
I don't really know. Okay, so I don't know. I'm gonna say God because really, I'm not sure. Especially in adulthood, I'm like, I still am able to find these places.
Mhm.
So I used to have this joke that everywhere I go, God sends me somebody who's going to cook for me. So there's always like
I need that.
I'm
Right.
hungry. I'm never like, oh, I miss home cooked meals, and then there's not a home cooked meal, right?
Oh,
Like there's always the spaces. Um, Church is a really big way for me to build a community. In South Africa, that was my lifeline. And so my friends and I were at church. We were at church on Wednesday for Bible study. We were there on Monday for women's Bible study, Friday for the singles night, Sunday for service. And then we would go out to eat after church on Sunday. We would celebrate each other's birthdays. We would celebrate accomplishments. We took trips together even while we were over there. And so church is a really big place for me. I have been fortunate enough to work in spaces that have like-minded people that I enjoy spending time with. And so those are good places. So in LA, my community was my work community. Like these were the people that I invited to my birthday party. And so it's like a lot of people don't have that experience at work. They're not making friends at work where they say, oh, let's go watch a baseball game. Like they don't have that, but I've been able to have that. I've been blessed to be in those kind of environments.
Yeah. And I think too, just speaking from that, because I remember we did a paint night at your place. I feel like you also provide those type of environments. So you're very welcoming and very much like you can come into my space and like this is your space too, which I've gone other places and it didn't feel like that. So it's kind of like what you put out is what you get in as well, or what you get put out is what you get back. So
I could sense that because as soon as I met her, I was like, "Can you be my friend?" Literally, like 2 minutes later,
2 seconds.
right? It was like, so I felt that too, and I don't say that to all the guests. I don't think I've ever said that to somebody that quick.
No, not straight off the back. Maybe by the end of the interview.
Yeah, but I just felt that. So I think when I mean, we just met, but Iman knows you better than I do, and I could already attest to that. So that's a good point. Iman's like, you got to put that out there too.
Thank y'all.
So switching gears a little bit, what is something that you hope, I feel like I might already know the answer, but something you hope people say about you when you're not in the room?
So funny enough, it's what you just said. That when they were in my presence, that they felt welcome, they felt accepted and loved for who they are.
Okay.
I think that's really important. I never want anybody to leave me feeling like, oh, and it's not even like you have to like me. I just want whatever space that I'm in, whatever space that I'm creating or inhabiting, people feel like it's their space. You're welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create that? Because you did it. We just told you. So I want to know how to do it so I can go do it. But you're like, I'm just born. She's born with it.
Honestly, okay. So when I was in South Africa, I had a group of friends who all went to the same church, but they never hung out with each other. And I got there and I was like, okay, come. Oh, and I know, Mempiwa and Kumo, come on, let's go. Like everybody come together and we're going to go eat here, or we're going to take a walk here, or we're going to Cape Town because it's Maslati's birthday. So I don't know is the answer, but I realized then there's some kind of, I used to joke, I was like, I'm the glue of this friendship group. And I want y'all to keep it together when I leave because I'm going back to the United States, but you all are still here. And I really don't know what it is. So I don't know if I'm just going to say it's God in me because I really have no idea. It's not a thing that I actively, can figure out how to do. I just realized then, oh, this is happening. Oh, okay. This is something that you're doing. Don't necessarily know how it's happening, but it's happening and it seems to be the trend wherever I am. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for it because it allows me to create family in these different spaces.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I feel like, and this is just me reading into it, it takes a certain level of, I guess, confidence in yourself too. Because I know like when you're in a space, and at least for me, and I'm like just meeting people and like filling them out, like there's a level of hesitation of like, all right, like where I wouldn't feel as confident to just be like, all right, I know we just met, but like everyone come to my house and like, let's have this space. I'm like, okay, let me fill you out. Let me make sure like you guys, like the energy and the vibe will click with everyone that's invited. Whereas I feel like you're just like, we're just gonna make it happen. And what happens, happens, which.
But people are also just good. Y'all are good people,
Reading people too.
Yeah, like y'all are good people. We should all just hang. Why not?
I agree.
I used to be a lot like Iman, but moving around, I realized I started opening up more now because I'm like, I was so grateful that people invited me into their spaces. And so I was like, I need to do the same. I used to be very, not cliquish in a mean girl way, but cliquish in a way of like, I want to protect me and my closest friends and make sure the people we're around, we know we can be ourselves around, we can be free and all that. But you block a lot of blessings out or block a lot of people out when you do that. And then it's selfish too, I think. And then again, going back to how people move so much, it's like, I remember how lonely I was in LA. And so I was like, now I'm like, whoever wants to come with us can come, invite people. Like, and I never was like that before. So I don't know. I hope that's helpful to the listeners. It's a little way to like switch it a little bit. It's turning that, like putting that wall down. And I think that's what you were describing in mind, kind of this wall. It's just for protection.
Yeah.
Hopefully Erica doesn't have that.
But I think that protection though too is important.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's really important to protect your mental energy. Really important. And I also think so. And to that point, I will invite you in. And if it's looking like, maybe not, you won't get a second invitation.
Yeah, so you set those boundaries.
Maybe you'll get a separate invitation. I have friends that I hang out with just the two of us because I know their energy is not compatible in a larger group. Y'all can't come to the birthday dinner, but we can have drinks on the side. And I think it's important to know that too.
Yeah.
That's really wise. And still, you don't throw the like baby out with the bathwater. That's still like a way to have everybody still feel included in some way. I love that. That's a lot to think about. It is, because I feel like people are so isolated now. And like, as we get older, making these friendships and building a sense of community is so important. And I don't think we think about it enough. And you don't think about it until you don't have it. And then you're really thinking of, so I don't know, that all of that is like, I think really, really important to reflect on. I don't know if we asked this, but if we did, we can just skip it. But have there been any challenges on your journey? And if we did ask that and you pushed, okay.
We did.
I don't remember that. Okay.
I don't remember. I mean, so my biggest challenge, I think, is my health challenges. I have lupus, and I've been living with lupus since I was 18. And so here I am about to hit 33 next Friday.
Hey. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm still living with lupus. And it's still one of my biggest challenges. But I do think that living with lupus has also been a drive for me to do things like create positive communities to engage in art and therapeutic activities that keep my mind right, which then keeps my body right. It's taught me a lot about self-care. Erica, you're tired today. Listen to your body. All right, cool. I'm going to lay down. I remember in college, I missed a lot of things because I just physically couldn't do it. And so, shout out to my friends, they never made me feel like I wasn't a part of the group, or, like I was like slowing them down, or, if I need to leave early, it was okay. So it's definitely been a challenge, but it's also been a large part of me being able to build the communities that I have been able to build, and to, I think, be an effective help to people who are challenged by different things.
Yeah. And it sounds like it hasn't slowed you down either. Like you take your breaks, but it's like you're still doing these trips and still starting organizations and creating these communities, which is so impressive. I feel like sometimes when there's challenges, people use that as like an excuse on why they can't. And it seems like you're like, all right, this is something I have to deal with when I have to deal with it, but I'm going to keep doing what I have to do.
Because life still goes on. I mean, it's my first year of college, and I'm like, ooh, all right, I got this thing. Now what? And it was tough. It's not that it was something that was easy to deal with. I couldn't do things I was doing. I used to run track. I played volleyball. I was dancing, and I had to slow down on a lot of things. I had to stop a lot of things, to be quite frank. But it wasn't ever going to be something that was going to pause my dreams or stop me from attempting to reach a goal.
Love it.
Go ahead, Imana.
I was just gonna say, like, you mentioned your friend circle and like your community a lot. What traits or qualities do people have to have in order to be in your circle?
I think the people around me tend to be really funny, either intentionally or unintentionally. They're just really funny people. They're really smart, and not necessarily just book smart, but my friends are really smart. Like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, you're doing that? Like, what? You're an engineer? Okay, cool. Oh, science. All right, you got it. Like, oh, you're a talented artist. Like, they're just really, really smart human beings. And I think they're very genuine people.
Okay.
Like, you're gonna get what you're gonna get, and you may not always like it, and it's okay, because they're literally showing you exactly who they are. And I think it's important when people show us exactly who they are, because then we get to make a choice. Do I want to continue to deal with you? And you don't have to, and it's cool.
Yeah,
but they're gonna show you who they are.
It's gonna come out sooner or later.
Yeah, you're gonna see
sooner than later. We don't have to waste everybody's time here. Let's just I did want to ask you, going back to the last thing we asked you, and if it's too touchy, I'm sorry, but if anyone is listening, I know we all struggle with so many different things. And so when you were diagnosed with lupus, before that, did you already have a foundation of faith, or what was your foundation anyway? Because it sounds like emotionally you handled it really well. I don't know what happened during that time, but now it seems like it's not stopping me. You had to stop certain things, but you don't sound defeated by it. So where was your mental space?
My mental space then, so I was coming, my symptoms started when I was in high school. So I was already stressed out. I was very anxious. I was very, very anxious. Am I going to get into school? I had a lot of confidence issues in high school, which was weird because my grades were stellar. But I don't know what it was. I liken it back to this instance in fourth grade. I did really poorly on a quiz. And ever since then, I started thinking like, oh, maybe you're not as good as you think you are. It didn't matter what my grades looked like after that. It was this thing that was stuck in my head, and I just pray no one else is. I mean, I know people are dealing with that, but like, it's so silly now that I think about it as an adult. Like, I didn't have any evidence to back up what I was feeling. There was literally no evidence. And today when I work with students, I'm like, this is how you feel. Show me the evidence. Mm-hmm. What supports you feeling this way? But anyway, I'm a therapist now, and that's fine. I get to help people now. So I had a lot of confidence issues. So I was very, very, very anxious. And my symptoms started, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And so I spent 6 months with no medication, no nothing, just in pain, not knowing what is going on with me. And then college started, and I was away from home, and I was happy to be away from home. But it was also tough being away from home and dealing with that. So I get this diagnosis, and I remember being really sad, but more scared because the internet is a wild place. Mm-hmm. It tells you so many things. I'm like, if I had a better doctor, that would have been a better time for me. But I also had a really supportive group of friends. We were, oh gosh, one of us had sickle cell. 2 of us had diagnosed mental health disorders. And then here I come with my lupus. And so we were, we were just, all right, y'all, how do we figure out this thing? How do we navigate this thing? Most of us are far away from home, but that support was really strong for me. My faith is also really strong. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that played a huge part and still plays a huge part in me getting through any challenge, any part of my day. Like, my faith is so important in just helping me to keep going. So even when emotionally I feel like I'm a mess, something about prayer pulls me out of it. Mm-hmm. Something about going to different scriptures shows me, okay, you're feeling this way and your feelings are valid, but the thoughts that are coming with these feelings are not always real. Yeah. So what do you know to be true? I open my Bible. What does my Bible tell me? Or what is the evidence that I have from my past that shows me that I can move through this as well? Mm-hmm. So that's how I stay stable.
And I feel like, you said you were diagnosed when you were 18?
Yeah.
That's so, I was not thinking that way at 18, 19. So I'm like, the fact that you had that foundation to kind of go back to at such a young age is, yeah. It's pretty
My family is real strong in the God business. Okay. They're real strong in it. My grandmother started the church that I currently attend. My dad is a deacon in the church. My stepmother is an evangelist in the church.
Okay.
He's in the choir at the church. Like, everything it's like so much of life was surrounded around this. Mm-hmm. My mom is a devout Catholic and has been since I was born. So everything was, and do your Hail Mary and do this and do that. And so even though I didn't, I don't practice the Catholic faith, it's still going to Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade and being with my mama in the house and her praying this rosary every morning faithfully at 6:00. Like, it gave me a discipline. It gave me a foundation of faith. And I eventually came to realize it doesn't matter what denomination I choose to really embrace. My base is God, and that's what I got.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I love that. I'm letting it all sink in. That's letting it resonate. This is different. Okay, we're moving.
So, switching gears a little bit.
Yes, I was trying to find a new term for it, but anyway, I can't. In our society, there's this idea of what it means to be successful, and that's even why Iman and I started the podcast. We wanted to define success for ourselves, and so what does it mean to you? And in addition to that, what makes you happy? When are you the happiest?
So so I have to start here. I used to define the success as doing whatever it was that would have my family be proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I define success as doing whatever it is that brings me joy and brings that joy back to my community.
Mm-hmm.
So to that point, I am happiest when I am spreading joy in a way that is sustainable for me. And I say it like that because I haven't always done that in a sustainable way. Mm-hmm. It hasn't always, and I think that can be true of a lot of social workers or therapists or counselors or people working in the nonprofits or people working with children, period. We can tend to give and give and give and give and forget that we are real human beings who need replenishing. And so I have learned and am learning how to do it in a really sustainable way. And that makes me really happy.
I love it. Can you, because I'm just wondering, like, can you give an example of something that maybe like you're like, okay, this is taking too much energy out of me. Like, how can I make it sustainable so that I'm getting something back?
Yes. Okay. So pandemic. It's the most recent, right? Mm-hmm. So last year, here I am working with these girls in this mentoring program. We're meeting twice a week, and the program is abruptly ended in person. But now I'm challenged to create this virtual space and learn how to use Zoom in 2 days. And so I found myself working through my day and up to the night. And at that point I was living at my dad's house, and he would come into my room at 10 o'clock. He's like, "You're still working?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. Let me close my computer."
Yeah.
The day is done. We're doing too much. And I would just be racking my brain planning things for these girls because I'm like, oh my gosh, now they're home. I don't know what's going on in their homes, or I know what's going on in their homes and it's not pleasant. And so how can I make sure that their social emotional health is great? And I'm doing all these things and I'm stressed and my face is breaking out and I'm flaring and I'm in pain all day. And I'm like, ooh, child, wait a minute. Can't work like that. If I'm working like that, what am I actually giving to them?
Yeah.
Like you're getting the last dregs of my energy because I spent all this time trying to create something that was great for you. We were in a 9-week summer program. It was crazy. I will never do that again. But we did it and it was successful. But I realized the way that I was doing it, I was draining myself. I was making myself sick. And I'm showing up every morning with these girls and I have this huge smile on my face and all this energy, and we're dancing and we're doing yoga and we're learning science and math and technology. And I'm like, yo, but at the end of the day, I'm drained because I didn't do this right. And so then I started to implement boundaries for myself. And so my work day would end at a normal work day. I'm not in the office, cool. But if I'm saying I'm going to work 8 to 4, I'm going to work 8 to 4. And that's what I started doing. And so I would close my computer. And then if I want to get back on the computer, sure. But it's to do something else entirely. It's not to send another email or to look up another activity or create another outline. I had to do that because I was sick. I could feel it. My labs were telling me I was sick. So I had to stop.
I love it. And I think that so many people struggle with that, especially with virtual work, because it's so easy to just keep going. Like you don't have to go anywhere. You just open your computer or keep it open and keep going. So I love that you're able to, and your body was telling you like, slow down.
Yes.
And
what I keep hearing throughout the whole episode is that you've been honoring what you feel like, like earlier you said something about being tired or whatever, and you listen to that. And I think that's hard for people too, is like, yeah, I feel tired, but I have to keep going or whatever. So that it's just, I just wanted to highlight that we honoring ourselves and what we feel inside, and like taking the time to feel it or listen, because we're just programs to keep going and going. I know I've said this before, but just to keep going and going. And it's like, before you hit that wall, it's like, just take a second. So I love that you've said that a few times. And I think it's an important point.
I don't subscribe to that you sleep when you die mentality. No, you sleep tonight.
Yeah.
And you wake up tomorrow.
Girl, I love my sleep. It's necessary.
And it's another day to do the thing that you thought was so important to do today. It really wasn't that important.
And you're not even doing it well when you're burnt out. That's what I realized too. Like, I could stay up, but what I'm doing is a hot mess. Might as well have just went to sleep, got some energy, and did it right the first time while I was energized. So yeah, I think it's important.
So I guess for our listeners that might be dealing with challenges, wanting to start their own or create these communities, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I would say just do it.
Okay.
Do it small. Do it raggedy. Okay, when I say raggedy, I don't mean like throw out trash. But I do mean don't wait until it's perfected, because what does that even look like? Right? And who decides if it's perfected? You never put it out there for anybody to look at, evaluate, give you feedback. You don't know if it's perfected. And so I would say just do it. Start with your friends. See how they engage with it. Start with your church community. Start with your family members. Just see how people engage with whatever it is that you're trying to do. But don't wait until you feel that it's perfect and everything is completely lined up and in a row before you start to do the thing that you want to do.
I love it. We, Selena and I will attest to having that issue before we got started the podcast, where we were just feeling like we had to perfect and like revamp, and we're just like, at one point we're like, okay, this is the date, we're just gonna do it. So I think that's such great advice, because sometimes, especially when it's new, you're just waiting for things to be perfect, and you're like, this is a vulnerable space, I don't know it. So I love that advice.
And it's not that it won't be scary, because I was sweating that day, like that we released the show.
It will be scary.
Oh, it's hot, okay, and it was not hot outside. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, but like you said, just do it. And I think it's a catalyst too. Once you do it, like, you'll want to do other things, and you'll be less afraid to do more things. So I think that's why it's like, yeah, you just gotta do it. It'll be okay.
And even if it's not, you get feedback. There's
exactly.
something from it. You'll learn how to do it better. I'm sure every time you do a podcast, it gets better and better.
Yeah. And we learn so much. Yeah, it's important. You will get feedback either way, but you're doing something that you want to do and that you enjoy, and it's important to you. So not just the podcast, anything that you're working on and that you put out there. So I think that's important. Real quick, what kind of therapy do you, how am I saying this right, specialize in?
I right now work with adults who are severely mentally ill or have drug addiction.
Okay.
In the DC area.
Okay. Just curious. I looked at your bio and I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't specify.
Yeah. So the agency that I work for right now is pretty much like get in where you fit in. And so, there's a lot of, which is good and bad, and there's a lot of opportunity to try different things and to work with the different groups of people. But it can also feel really scary. In the beginning, I was very intimidated because I was so used to working with young people. But at my interview, they felt that this was the position for me. And so it's the position that I took, and it's working out.
I love it. And it sounds like, this is why I didn't do clinical, but it sounds like that can be it can be like very heavy work working with that particular
Yeah.
population. What do you do for like self-help and like self-care to kind of re-energize and get back to Erica?
So I take a lot of walks.
Okay.
The good thing with therapy is that you get supervision weekly. You're supposed to. You're supposed to get supervision weekly. Supervision is helpful in helping you to just get stuff out. Supervision goes through not only, highlighting client issues that they're having and things that you need help with, but it also gives you a chance to connect with your feelings around certain clients. Is this triggering for you, and why? And so what I've learned in the absence of supervision is to journal. So if something is bothering me about a certain topic, or if I'm struggling working with a specific client, I'm journaling about it. It just helps me to get it out of my head so it's not sitting up here. Yeah, that the journaling helps a lot. It's really important to just get it out of my head.
Yeah.
Because it's not mine. And even though they are my clients, their problems are not my problems. And that's something that I struggled with in the beginning. It's very easy to hold on to. Where I had to realize my friends are not sounding boards, about my therapy cases. So just write it out and talk with my supervisor when I do have an opportunity to have supervision.
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
Yeah. It's important stuff, man.
Yeah. And I feel like I do the journaling too, and it does make a difference, such a difference, like just getting it out of your head and then onto paper, and you're like, all right.
Yeah.
So
like, I don't know how to journal. Look, I've been journaling all my life. Little girls, they give you the little diaries with a little key that you break and all this. And so I started, my whole life, but I find it helpful sometimes. But for the most part, I'm like, I don't know what to write. Today I went to the store, y'all. I'm like, I don't know. Because I want to make it a habit that I do regularly, but I don't regularly have things to say, like really. So I'm just in there writing like, I hope this works out. Thanks, God. Or I write like what I'm grateful for and my prayers and stuff. But in a therapeutic way, that happens every once in a while. And I totally mind like sometimes, and it did happen, but for the most part, it's not. Are there any quick like tips for that to make it more like a release or?
Okay, so I don't journal regularly, like for myself.
Okay.
I journal when I have extreme emotions. So if I'm happy, if I'm really happy, something really great happened, I'm gonna write it down just for documentation's sake. Or if I'm really sad or really angry, sometimes the emotion is too much to even write. I do a lot of voice memos on my phone.
Yeah.
The voice memos are so helpful. Last summer, y'all, I have so many voice memos that are like 30 minutes long because I would just take a walk. I had to get out the house, take a walk, and I'm talking. I'm just talking.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have had enough focus in those moments to sit and write. It wouldn't have come out fast enough. It would have looked like trash jumbled in my journal. Like it wouldn't have worked. And so when I cannot write, I'm doing voice notes.
Yeah.
That idea.
Another tip that I got from someone else is if you want to journal and make it a habit, don't focus on, you don't have to write like everything, right? So she writes how she's feeling physically. She's someone who also has lupus. How she's feeling physically, how she's feeling emotionally, where she is spiritually. She'll just write those 3 things every day. And then what she does, because she does make it a daily habit, is go back to the year before and see where she was on that day and compare to where she's feeling today.
I love that. That's
good. I'm definitely taking notes.
Yeah, and that's quick and easy too. And it's like a good way to reflect and gauge where you are. I love that. And I did the video journaling by myself, like diary, and I was like, the government's watching my video. And then I started, I I know that's stupid, but I was like, I don't want them all in my business. So I
They're watching your whole phone. So if you worry about that video,
I know. So I'm gonna go back to doing it. What you say, Iman?
They're watching you everywhere. You can't escape.
True.
Everywhere.
But I hope that like they wouldn't know my thoughts if I didn't say them. So I'm like, now they got my deepest thoughts. So I'm like, but now I'm gonna do the voice memo. I'm not gonna worry about it. The government gonna know anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Do you go back and listen to your voice memos, or is it just like I just need to get okay?
Sometimes it's so funny, and other times I'm like, wow, you in a place. Like my whole journal and voice memos from last year are so up and down. I'm like, oh, 2020 was a tough year.
Yeah.
You ain't lying.
Yeah.
Well, those are really, really good tips, Erica. And I just shared that part about the government to be funny, but I do think that. But anyway. So
I'm like, good.
So we're gonna wind down because we're hitting that time. Does anybody have anything else?
No.
I want to say thank you all for creating this space.
And of course, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here with us. And I know we say this all like it's in our outro, but we really can't do it without the guests. Don't nobody want to hear me and Iman talk every week. The numbers don't even the numbers show it, right? So we need those different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, and like you were saying, like you need to take time to like get things back. And I feel like Selena and I say this all the time. Every guest we have on, we walk away with so much in terms of just things that we can incorporate. So I love it.
Yeah. Every episode, like I'm a better person now. And you were so nice, Joy, and Joy, I'm looking at this old script. Sorry. I'm so sorry. But you were so nice, Erica, and so smart and so much wisdom. And so I'm really grateful and happy to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna come visit you. I'm bringing Iman with me, maybe. I'm coming though.
She's a little far, but y'all come on.
You won't be there forever.
True. Come on, New Orleans is here. As soon as I have a place to live, anybody is welcome.
Really want to come. Why am I doing by myself? All right, we're gonna go ahead and close out. Okay, everybody ready?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again, Erica, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves.
And of course, thank you, listeners. We could not do this without you. Remember to hit like, comment, and share this episode. We really appreciate your feedback.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we ask our guests to say our tagline, which is, it's long. We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Hey.